Hey, college wrestling fans, it's JT1Wrestle here. Today we have a great guest. We have Case Western Reserve, 133-pounder heading into his senior year. Please welcome to the show, Art Martinez.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm
You
excited.
bet, man. You bet. All right, man. So here's my first question for you. So far, you have been fifth, fourth at the regionals, and you've proven yourself to be absolutely one of the best in NCAA Division III wrestling, and in my personal opinion, the best in the 133-pound weight class yet to make the national tournament. Now, you've proven with various showings, various wins throughout the seasons, you have the talent to be a national champion this year. How are you approaching 25, 26? What are you working on mentally, physically, dare I say spiritually, as you're
Yeah.
heading into the season?
Yeah, I think honestly the difference between this year for me is I'm taking a lot of the pressure off myself. I mean, especially last year was hard. I hadn't been a 133 pounder since my junior year of high school. I'd worked as hard as I could have possibly to make the tournament and All American. It just didn't happen, which sometimes that's just how the cards fall. And especially during practice, like I'd put a lot of pressure on myself because I mean I expect to be a national championship or national champion. That's my goals. That's always been my aspiration since going to Case. And yeah, I think kind of letting go a little bit and just realizing that I put the work in and whatever happens, happens. And to be more proud of the work and the product I put out than the results, I think should make a difference here. And then just wrestling wise, physically, I'm working on. So I wrestle a lot of Greco. I was a U23 All American. So Greco's always been the main focus of my wrestling. So I'm trying to get a little more better when people defend my Greco, especially more outside shots, just post attacks, better setups. So when I can't tie up with people, I have something to go to. So I think those two would probably be the two big things that I'm trying to change this year compared to the rest of my college career.
I want to elaborate a little bit more on the mental side of what you're talking about right there. Has that been something that you saw in yourself, or more so something that your coaches saw in you?
A little bit of both, actually. So last year, I actually started meditating a lot, especially when I first started cutting to 33. It really helped kind of clear my head. And then during practice, whenever I'm like shaking my head or getting frustrated, Chap's usually like, "Hey, nope, no shaking your head." Because a lot of the times I tend to get negative, and when I do get negative, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm like, "That should have been better. I should be doing this or that." And I think kind of just letting it go and just accepting what's going to happen is going to change things this year, because especially after last year getting fourth again in region, it took me a while to accept that I worked as hard as I could have and it just didn't happen. And it took me a while to really learn that. So now that I feel like I've let go and whatever is going to happen, I'm just going to work as hard as I can. It really just takes the pressure off thing and honestly makes wrestling more fun, because I only got 1 year of this. I'm done after this year wrestling, so I might as well make it fun.
I was speaking earlier to the fact that you've had some really outstanding showings, especially last season. You had 40 wins on the season. I mean, that's
Yeah.
incredible. 40 wins on the
Thank you.
season. You were fifth at Pete Wilson,
Yeah.
which I don't know how you feel, but in my personal opinion, Pete Wilson's the toughest in-season tournament that there is. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of great teams, a lot of ranked wrestlers are there. And then you had a huge win over two-time All-American Jaden Hinton, who was second and third in the D3 Nation the past two seasons. And then you also had a really nice win over All-American Chance Suddiff of Augsburg. Talk about those victories, and have they helped you at all in gaining confidence moving forward?
Oh yeah, 100%. I guess I'll start with the win against Boogie. And I'd actually, so before I dropped down to 33, as far as I'd know, I'd never even beaten a qualifier. It just everyone I'd faced I'd lost or I hadn't faced many. So then I dropped down to 33 last year, and the win against Hinton was big for me because 2 weeks prior to that, one we wrestled BW in duel and they blanked us completely. It was something to zero. I don't know the score, but he beat me up. He majored me. It was not fun. My dad was watching in Cleveland. I
Oh
was like,
no.
wow. I was like, that did not go as I had originally planned it. So 2 weeks later, going into, I think it was what's the second? It was the Suma invite. And that was also, it was his senior night, quote unquote. I guess BW does like a senior tournament. And I guess some context going in, I had just wrestled this kid named Armstrong in the finals from West Liberty, D2 kid, really good. And I'd barely beaten him. And now I knew I had Hinton coming back up. And I saw him doing his senior awards. So I'm like, wow, that would be fun to spoil. And then I did with all my teammates around. Something that is really cool. My private coach, his name is Chris Doyle. He's a BW alum and All American. He now coaches at Elevate. He helped me out a lot last year, and that was the one tournament he was able to watch me live. And he watched that finals match, and God, it skyrocketed my confidence going the rest of the year. And Sudeth, that one was in Chicago. I had actually just lost to Kobe from Milliken, who
Oh, yeah.
we'd wrestled, and I was a little down after losing that, and I was like, dang, this kid was solid. And beating Sudeth after, especially in a duel like Augsburg, where I mean the team didn't do as well as we could have, but beating him really kind of brought my confidence back up and showed. I mean, I knew in my head that I could compete with the best of the country, but having those results, I beat two All Americans last year. Like I'm there. It's just the cards have to fall, and I think this year they will, but it definitely gives me confidence. I know I belong. I know 33 is where I can make a mark this year.
And making your mark, I want fans to know out there that you're from Georgia. You're a
Yeah.
Georgia kid. And, a lot of great wrestlers have came out of the state of Georgia, but it's not a state. I mean, everybody wants to talk about Pennsylvania and
Yeah.
Ohio and Iowa, California. Georgia's not a state that gets a lot of respect. What does it mean to you to represent the state of Georgia? And I also want to ask you, what was the wrestling scene like growing up in the Atlanta area?
So I guess I'll start with the wrestling scene first, and I'll tell you what it means. So around Atlanta specifically, honestly, there isn't too much of one. I actually went up like 45 minutes. My club was Level Up in Marietta. So most of the wrestling scene is more out in the suburbs. In the city, it's not too big. There's some clubs trying to change that, but the bigger clubs in Georgia are like Roundtree, that's all the way out in Houston, Georgia. Level Up, where I went, where Caleb Henson, Jack Smith, they came from. That's in Marietta. So the scene around Atlanta isn't big, but the scene in Georgia in general is definitely growing. I mean, shoot, Fargo this year we had our first two Georgia finalists with Paradise and who was it, Dallas Russell. So I think Georgia as a whole is getting a lot bigger, and it means to me a lot to be in that. We were one of the first bigger kind of the new gen classes with Henson, Smith, people coming out of Georgia, but not many of them went D3 specifically, just because we don't have many D3 programs down here. I think the only one south of Virginia is Greensboro, if I have that right. But
Yeah, great. Yeah. Then you guys have a couple of NAIA programs, and
yeah,
you
we got
also
like,
have D2
yeah,
Emmanuel.
yeah. So, but coming out of Georgia, it's not big D3 presence. I love getting to say I'm from Georgia because
Yeah.
people, honestly, I think we're slept on as a state because we had seven divisions when I was high school. We have six now. So people hear you're a Georgia wrestler, you're a state champ, and they feel like it's watered down. But especially the clubs now, I think Georgia's a growing state when it comes to wrestling. And to feel like I was kind of at the front end of that, I love it. Anytime I can say I'm from Georgia and I beat some PA kid or Iowa kid, it always just puts a smirk on my face because they wouldn't expect a Georgia boy to come out there. But I think now with the new clubs we got going, there's going to be a lot more kids like me and better than me, especially coming out of my state. So it means a lot to be at the forefront of that.
Well, very, very cool. Very cool. So the other thing, talking about D3 wrestling, you wrestle for Case Western Reserve, which is a part of the University Athletic Association, which is known for its academic prowess. We're talking probably not only in D3, but in all of college wrestling, academically, probably the toughest conference there is. You yourself are a three-time NWCA Scholar All-American. Talk about balancing probably one of the toughest academic loads in D3 wrestling with wrestling and how you've been able to be successful on both the mat and in the classroom.
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest thing it's always come down to for me is time management. I went into case knowing how like academically rigorous it was at a school, and that's what I wanted because I have goals after wrestling. They all said I'm going to law school, so especially with case, I was able to do that. And I think the biggest thing is having one. Obviously, the coaching staff supports academics. It's always been academics first at case, so that makes it a lot easier being able to. I know a lot of my teammates. I haven't had to do this personally, but they've had class during when we practice, so we'd either wrestle in the mornings, I'd go wrestle with them. So I think definitely having a staff that supports academics first has made it a lot easier for me to balance that. And then time management again has always been the biggest thing for me. I'm in season, I have a day set up. My day is set up to the maybe 15 minutes marks. I wake up at a time. Last season I'd study LSAT in the morning, go to my classes, do my homework in between classes, go to Veal where we wrestle, do some homework, wrestle, homework, sleep. That was my day. And I think being able to have one, the time management skills to do that, where I've really learned at Case, because all my friends are doing the same thing. So we're all going to class, we're all doing the homework, we're all putting in the work. And to have people surrounding me that, one, have the same goals academically and athletically, and then two, having a coaching staff that really supports it, made it honestly a lot easier to be able to be as successful as have been, both on the mat and then in the classroom.
I want to throw another question at you real quick here involving Case Western Reserve. You guys are located in Cleveland, Ohio,
Yeah.
and I'm curious to know, what did you guys have a response, or did you guys have a like a meeting or anything whatsoever when it came to Cleveland State discontinuing their wrestling program last year? Did that have any effect on you guys at all?
No, I wouldn't say too much because we figured it out after season when that they were going to eliminate a program. I mean, obviously, I talked to my friends about it. I'm like that. I mean, it sucks that Cleveland State always came to our Del Rosa Open. I love getting to scrap with those guys. They're good. I knew a couple of them at the Greco club I used to go to. They were Cleveland State guys. They had to transfer. But as a team, no, we didn't really say anything about it because, frankly, it doesn't affect us personally too much. They're D1, we're D3. We still have our program that's really strongly supported from our school. So in-house, that doesn't do too much. But as the wider wrestling world, I think it's insane what Cleveland State and their administration is doing. Frankly, they have the money to keep it. They're choosing not to. And I
Yeah,
think for the wider community, that sucks.
yeah.
It's terrible. But us personally at Case, there's nothing we can do about it. So we're really just focused on in-house and getting better for next year.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Now, my last question for you today, Art, it's kind of a fun one. When you were in high school, you were also a lacrosse player, and your sister, Antonia, am I pronouncing that right, Antonia?
Yeah, Antonio.
Um,
Yep.
will be a senior this year on the women's lacrosse team at Illinois Tech.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious to know, did you ever think about going the lacrosse route? And if so, what made you decide on wrestling instead?
So yeah, honestly, I used to care back in the day before even high school. I played travel lacrosse. I didn't wrestle. I wrestled in the off season, but very sporadically. I was on a travel lacrosse team. I'd go to different states. I went up to Maryland and played, and then it actually was more based on where I went to high school because I went to Holy Innocents, coached by at the time Stacey Davis, fantastic coach, Olympic ref. He actually just got a job at the Olympic Training Center, which is fantastic. But I think really going to highs where I went and having him support me wrestling made me want to wrestle more, especially in the summer. He's the one that got me out to those national tournaments, Super 32, Fargo. He was always there supporting me. While Heisel's lacrosse program, I was always just thought of as the wrestler who played lacrosse. Like they put me on face off, even though I didn't play that position because I wrestled. They just knew I wrestled and was good at it. So I was like, well, I mean, if I have more support on this sport, that's what I'm going to choose. So I continue to wrestle, continue to do that. And then I use lacrosse as kind of my outlet as to, hey, I'm not cutting weight. I get to have fun with my friends. I get to just be like a normal high school athlete for a bit and kind of take the load off. And then, yeah, I just kind of stuck with wrestling since I had a coach who really supported me and really pushed me.
Well, Art, I want to thank you today for being a part of JT1 Wrestle,
Of
and
course.
I want to wish you the absolute best of success in 2025, 2026.
Yeah, thank you so much for all you do, being able to report. It's cool seeing all the work you do on D3 Wrestling. I love it, frankly.
Well, you bet, man. You bet.
Yeah.